Welcome back to Arbitrary YouTube channel. In today's class we'll be learning how to make this beautiful cascading ruffle ball gown. So we made this using our crinoline and veil net. It's a very simple tutorial and it's beginner friendly. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned till the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so my camera went off while filming, so I'm going to explain what I have done using this paper. So for the half length, I'm folding the front and back together. The half length is 8 inches, so I'm adding 1 inch allowance. So the length I'm folding is 9 inches, and then the width, the chest that I'm working with is 20 inches for a year hold. So the 20 inches I'm going to divide it by 4, and that's going to give me 5 inches. So the 5 inches I'm going to add 1.5 inch to it, that's 6.5. So that's the width that I'm folding. So this here is my back and this is my front, and this is my my zipper allowance for the back. So the shoulder that I'm working with is 4 inches, so I'm start measuring the 4 inches from the center front, which is here. So I have my 4 inches here, and then I'm going to mark it. So on that point I'm going to mark half an inch for my shoulder slope. Like I said, it's for a year hold. The neck width that I'm working with is 2 inches, so from there I'm going to draw my shoulder slant. For my armhole, the armhole is 4 inches, so I have 4 inches here, and on that point I'm going to mark my chest line. In this case I said it's 5 inches, but this paper is small, so I'll assume this is my 5 inches, and then I'm going to add 1.5 inch seam allowance. I'll measure the same thing on the waistline, and then I will connect it. So if your child has a different waistline, you can measure that on your time, but for me it's the same thing, the chest and the waistline. So now after doing that, now I'm going to use my curve to draw my armhole. I'm just going to use my free hand in this case. So this is my armhole curve. Okay, so now the next thing you need to note is your neck depth. So this is going to have like an illusion with a net. So the depth that I want is around 4 inches. Okay, so I'll mark the 4 inches, and on that 4 inches mark I'm going to go inwards by half an inch, and this is just for the front. I'm going to cut my back neckline separately. So now this is the depth that I'm going to be working with for the front. So now for my illusion, I'm just going to connect it in a diagonal form to get to my waistline. You can see it slanted like this. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is to take this curved ruler again, and then I'm going to connect this with a slight curve and make sure everything just aligns well so that it's going to be smooth. So once I get that, I'm going to blend it with what I have. So this part, okay, this shaded part is going to be replaced with a net. Okay, and that's going to form my illusion. So this is for the front. So now you can easily cut out your pattern and then work on the back neckline as well. So now my side is cut, my armhole is cut out as well. So I'm just going to cut a tentative back neckline depth so that I will know where my neck point is. Okay, so now I can remove the back and then work on the front. So for the front, I'm going to cut out the neckline first, and this is the shape that I want for my neckline. And after that, I'm going to cut out this part that I will be replacing with my net. Okay, so you can see, so this is what it's going to look like, and this part I'm going to go ahead now and cut it with net. So you include your seam allowance to sew it back. So this is the neckline you're going to have. So for the back, depending on what you want, I think I'm just going to go with the 4 inches that I went with for the back. For the front or lower, you can work with 5 inches. So now I'm going to mark my zipper allowance, and then from there I want it to be a V neckline. So I'm going to connect my V shape to my neck width, and here I'm going to cut this neckline out. So that's my back neckline, and then I'm going to separate the two back sides so that a zipper can go through. So this is what my back neckline looks like. So now I'm going to go ahead now and cut this on my main fabric and then sew. So like I said, I lost the clip, so I have already gone ahead to cut it. So you can see my two side fronts, and this is the illusion net that I used to replace it. So I used this to cut it, and I've turned it inside out. So this is the back, and I've also sewn the front and back together. So this is what my half length is looking like now. Okay, so the next thing now is to work on the lower part, to go ahead and iron this flat so that all this puffiness can go. So now I'm going to go ahead and work on the lower part. So for the lower part, you're going to be using the round waist that you have here, which in this case is 20 inches plus 2 inches zipper allowance. So that's going to give me around 22 inches. So that 22 inches, now you are going to divide it by 3.142 because the half circle flex. So 22 divided by 3.142 is going to give me around 6 point something, 6.5 or so. So to fold my fabric, I'm going to fold into two first, and then I'm going to fold it in a diagonal form like this. So after folding like that, I'm going to measure the radius, which is the 6 point something, and then the length, that's from the half length, that's from the waistline of your client to wherever it is you want the full length to be. So in my case, I don't want the lining, because this is going to be the lining fabric. I don't want it to reach the floor length, so I just measured a length of around 18 inches. So from here I measured 18 inches all around and I cut it, which is what I have cut out here. Okay, so this is my small flex that is going to serve as my lining, and then I'll go ahead now and pleat my net on it. So for this tutorial, I'm working with a total net of 10 yards. Okay, I'm working with a net of 10 yards. So it has a cascading flounce all around it. So for the cascading flounce, I'm using 3 yards, which means I'm going to be having a total of 7 yards left. And now this net is by 60, so I have folded my net and then I've cut it. So assuming this is by 60, I have folded it neatly. You need to fold it neatly. So now the total length of the person that I'm making this for is around 28 inches. So out of the 28 inches, I've used 8 inches for my allowance, for my half length. So now I have 20 inches to make up the full length. So now that I have folded my half length, my net, now remember I have just 7 yards left. I have folded it. So what I'm going to do now is to mark the 20 inches here, 20 inches here. But for me, I don't want it too full. So if you want it really full, you have 20 20 20 in 3 places. But for me, I'm just using 2. So now I'll just cut out my 20 inches in 2 places, and then what I'm going to do now is to sew them together so that I can have a long strip. So now remember, it's 7 yards. So by the time I sew 2 together, that's going to leave me with 14 yards. So if you are using 3, it means you are going to be gathering 21 yards. I hope you understand that. So now I'm folding 2 now, and I'm going to be having 20 inches by 14 yards because I'm just folding 2, and the total is 7 yards. So now this 14 yards that I have, I'm going to go ahead and gather it round this radius that I have on my flare. Okay, so I have gathered this now, and you can see I have gathered the total 14 inches, 14 yards round the radius. So you can see my radius now. I just gathered my net round it, and the length of this net is around 20 inches. So this is what I have. I don't usually use hard net for babies, so you can see what 14 inches gave me is really voluminous, and we are still not added our cascading flounce on it. So I'm just going to keep this aside now and then work on your case. So when you have joining, especially in front, you can see my own joining here. You make sure when you're attaching it, you conceal it neatly. Okay, you can add many gathers around that place so that it's going to, you can see now that you cannot see my joining in front. So you have to be mindful of that, or you just make your joining be on the sides. So now for the cascade, I'm going to be working with a full circle flare. So remember, my full length is 20 inches, and the cascade is going to be in form of a high-low. So the lowest part is going to be 10, and the longest is going to be my actual measurement, which is 20 inches. So together I'm going to have 30 inches. So to get my 30 inches, what I'm going to do now is to fold my fabric like this. Okay, remember, assuming this is 30 inches, so by the time you fold this, you are going to have 15 inches. So you make sure you fold like this first, so you have 15 inches, 15 inches, and then you fold again. That's a full circle flare. And when you're folding again, you make sure that you have 15 inches, 15 inches on this side as well. I hope you understand that, because I need 30 inches. Okay, 30 inches to make up my high low, the high being 20 and the low part is going to be 10 inches. So now to fold it, I have this long fabric here. So now the fabric is total 30 inches, so I have 15 inches here, 15 inches here by the time I fold it into two. And then the length also must be up to 30 inches, so that by the time you fold again into four, you have 15 inches, 15 inches. So after folding it on this apex points, now you go ahead and measure 15 inches all round like this. Then after measuring your 15 inches all round, you are going to cut this out. This is not going to have a radius, please note that. By the time you cut it out, this is what you are going to have. You are not going to be cutting out any radius. So after having this, I have cut this now, and this is what I have. You can see my net, it's a net, so we may not see it well. So this is my big circle that I have. So now I'm going to bring in my crinoline. So I'll take my crinoline now, and then I'll use it to tape the edges all around. Okay, these edges, you are going to place your crinoline now and then sew it all around the edges. So I'll take it to the sewing machine now, and then I'm going to sew this all around the edges. So after sewing it around the edges, you're going to flip it again and then top stitch on it, so that it's going to stay put for you. Okay, so I have gone ahead to tape mine with crinoline. You can see after sewing it, you just flip it to the wrong side, and then you tape it so that it's not going to shift. And this is what I have. So I have cut 6 of this because I want 6 cascading flounces. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I've gone ahead to tape all of the edges with my crinoline. So the next thing now is to apply this cascading flounce on my skirt that I've already made. Okay, so like I explained, this is going to be a high low flare. So now what you need to do now is to measure your 10 inches. Remember, the high is 10 while the low part is 20 inches. So now from the M of here, you just pick one side, you measure your 10 inches. So once you have the 10 inches, you stop there and then pick it on the center point. So you can see what I have now. I have this part being high and this part being low. So now this is how you are going to pick it. You can just sew this part so that you're not going to lose it. And then remember, we have 6, so you need to decide where you're going to be placing this on your skirt. You can divide this by 6 inch by 6 so that you mark your point. So once you have your point now, you're going to pick this edge, this part that you have picked, and then you're going to sew it to this part. So once you sew it, you arrange it well so you can see how much it has spread. I'm going to hold this with pin. Okay, so now after holding it with pin, you go ahead and pick the next one. You mark it just like I explained. After marking your high and low, which is 10 and 20, this is what you are going to have. So you go to the next point where you have marked, and then you are going to place this on that point again. Okay, on the hem, on the radius part, you are going to place it there now, and then you are going to pin it. So all this pin now, we are going to sew it later. So now we have just applied 2 now, and you can see what we have formed so far. Okay, so you can see what we have formed. This is the first one and this is the second one. So this is the same way you're going to apply all of the cascade all around, all the 6 cascade, and then you are going to sew it. So after sewing it, you are going to bring in our half length that we have already made, and then you're going to sew the half length to the lower part of the skirt. I hope you understand that. So what you just need to do, this is the circle that we made. Okay, so the circle that we made, you're going to pick your high points and your low points by marking 10 inches. So from here, you're going to mark 10 inches, and you make sure that you pick the center point. So once you have your 10 inches, you pick it here, and then you're going to have a part being high like this and the other one being low. So on that point here, that you have picked, that's what you're going to be tacking to the point. So like I said, this radius, that's where you're going to be adding all the 6 cascade flounce that we have. So you need to mark the points that you will be attaching your cascade flounce. So once you have the point, you just pin it like this. You make sure you pin it in such a way that your high and low is facing front like this. So I'll go and iron this. I've not ironed it. You need to iron it so that it can lay very well for you. So once you pin it on that point, it's going to spread out on its own, giving you this beautiful high low, and you have all this crinoline on the tip. So I'll go ahead and do this now and bring it back to show us what we have. Okay, so I have gone ahead to pin this skirt to a mannequin, a dress form, so that I can see the fit before I go ahead to sew it. And you can see the points where I pinned it. So you divide your skirt into the 6 if you have 6 flounces. If you have 4, you divide it into 4, and then you pin it in the cascading form like this. So you can see the cascading effect that this has given me. So now once I am satisfied with this, I'm going to remove it and pin it to the skirt, and then I'll go ahead and sew it to my skirt before sewing this to my half length. So you can see what I have, guys. It's a baby dress, so it's not going to go around the mannequin, of course, but you can see what I have so far. So I'll go ahead now and then I'll sew this, then I'll bring it back to show us what it looks like. Okay, so I have attached my half length to the skirt part, and this is what it looks like. So on the waistline, I just tacked this trimming that I have, just so that it's not too plain. So this is the cascading effect that our flounce is giving us, and you can see how voluminous this dress came out. So on the back, I also added my zipper to the back as well. So this is what the dress is looking like now. You can see how beautiful this is. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.